don't. So should we start doing framework and use case? Yeah. It's for the Carlos conflict. You see the email from Carlos that we have conflict. He has conflict with the we presented at the same time in the brain working group. So I think it's better if we. Yeah. It's not here. I don't think. So it's not here. I can send it. All right.
So, gentlemen cats and lady cats, please sit down nicely in your basket and stop playing with your toys. And if you would like to have conversations, please outside. Thank you. So welcome to Computing Aware Traffic Steering. Apparently it's March the 18th. Good.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. Good afternoon for the on-site participant, and also good morning or good evening for the online participant. It's a CAS working group meeting, and we are Pomnil, Adrian, and Matt as a co-chairs. So first is a note where I think so you are agree to follow the IETF process and the policies. And the most important about the patent issues, if you know anything about yours or your colleagues or anyone's, you must disclose it. And I think our working group has two working group document which has a patent, and please make sure that the audio and video and any we have the record which may be made public, and by please show your respect to all the partners in the meeting. And based on the note well, there is a note really well. Yes, it's emphasized about your behaviors, and it said if you meet any harassment or under any harassment, please be confident to connect to the outbound person. So just pay attention to that. And we also encourage people to know more about the policies and do really the contribution to the working group. So here's meeting tips. Make sure to use a Meet Echo to join the meeting for both online and in-person participants. And when you don't see anything, please make sure to keep the audio and the video off. And then here's our agenda today. So we have 30 minutes slot for the CAT use case, and have 15 minutes for the framework, and 30 minutes for the metrics. But since we have one presenter that has time conflicts to other working groups, so we may want to just change the order. First, we may go into the CAS framework sessions. So presenter, I think, Cheng Li, yeah. Do you think it's okay with you? Next, next, we first go into the framework slot. Okay, thanks. And if we have time, we will have the open mic in the in the meeting. So here's about Matt. He has only been with us as co-chairs since last year, and he has do a really great work. Improvement, I think, also help for the working group. I think, including the shaping of the framework document and reaching the consensus about the CAS metrics. And we do the third working group document adoption during this during you as a co-chair. And Matt has been promoted to the OPS area director. So, okay, congratulations, and really thanks to Matt. Do you have anything? Nothing to say?
Med is too shy. He has prepared a dance and a song for us, but he's too shy to do it.
Okay, we wish him good fortune in his new role. So that is the document status of our working group. We just have 3 working group documents, and we adopted the metric document in last IETF meeting. So for the milestones, I think we do all of the adoption work of this working group, and we has 2 milestones remaining to refine the draft and submit it to the IESG. We also had an interim focus on the CAS metrics, and I think it's also focused on the CAS use cases. And we believe that we really got a great promote to in the interim. So if you have any comments or suggestions about the future interims, please send messages, send the emails to the CAS chairs or the CAS working group mailing list. And this is the meeting goals for our important work. So first, for the use case and the requirements, we will share the use case consolidation updates since last meeting and resolve some remaining issues and agree on the publication plan, which we has discussed about it, to decide the target last call date that can be discussed in the use case part. And for the framework, we will focus on key design discussion issues. And also we will decide the publication plan for it. And we need to request early directory reviews. And we need maybe select someone or request to someone to help to review this draft. And for the metrics, we just to update status since last interim and review some open issues. And okay, last one, open mic if we have some time. So let me change to any comments or suggestions on the agenda? Okay, so I think we should go to the next slide, which is the framework first.
Hello guys, Charlie from Huawei. So I will introduce the update of our important document, which is the framework document. So next, please. You can give it to me. Yeah. Doesn't work?
Yes,
You
have a try.
you have to give permission.
Permissions.
I need some help from you. So basically, we have 2 parts. The first one is about the change since the last, IETF meeting, and then we can discuss something like what's the next step of the document. Next, please. Good. Okay. So I can summarize the the update from the previous meeting. Basically, we only update one single revision, which is the 05, and the main updates, they are okay. Good, perfect. So I make some editorial modification of the whole document after a deeply review. Yep, and after the deep review, I found that we missed a term called computing metric. So what is computing metric, right? So we add a new term called computing metric. And you can see the text right there. And if you have any comments regarding this term, share to the link thing, to the mailing list. Thank you. So I also found some things that we should handle. Like, for example, I didn't delete all the compute from the definition of the CPS, right? So I delete them purely this time to address the Dirk's comment, right? And then I also add some workflow to the centralized model to address the comment from Chang Wang Lin. I really want to know what's his opinion on this, because we need his confirmation on this point. So I believe that we can close this issue, right? And the fifth one is that we fix some mistakes in the workflow figures of the centralized and hybrid models. Yep. And yeah, for the GitHub, we closed 3 issues. The first one is about came from Luis. So I think we have addressed the comments by explaining to him, because nothing is critical there. Yeah. And the second one is about another issue came from Luis, but that is mainly about another document proposed by Luis. So it's not related to this document so much. So we close the issues as well. And the third one is about the instance affinity and security, but I send the updated document to address them their comment, and send an email to the list and request for confirmation for a long time, but I received no replies. So I think we might close the issue for now, and if they still have the comments, they can raise the comments in the working group last call. Yeah. So that's the introduction of the 3 issues. And right now we still have 4 issues in the GitHub repository. The first one came from Zhongpeng, and basically I would say the conclusion is too solution specific. So I think we might can close the issues as well. As well. So if Zhongpeng is online, please stand up to comment on that, if we can close the issue. And the second one came from Chang Wang. Basically, I have mentioned it in the previous slide. So basically, I think we can close it. So please confirm with that, Chang Wang. And the third one is about the encryption of the encrypted service identifier. I think that's come from you, right, Matt? So we might have some discussion on the mail list if we need to have that. Yeah.
Yeah. This was already, I would say, the description is I would say in the GitHub. This is really a basic question. Is that, as you know, the flows to access to the service itself are really encrypted, and we are supposing, per the CATS framework, that we have a node which is called classifier on path. Given that all that content is really encrypted, and you are asking that classifier to do something, so we have to dive a little bit into the packet journey itself to say, yeah, if the identification of the service itself is encrypted, how the classifier can do its job. For example, if we think that the identification can be based, for example, of the service name identifier, if we are using TLS and so on. And if we are using, for example, the encrypted client hello there, then even that piece will be hidden for us. So yeah, the comment here is that we need to go a little bit deeper into the, I would say, the handling of the packet, not just saying that will be happening by some magic, but to go to and to provide some concrete information of how this will be doable.
Okay.
So I think this is really important that we have this kind of discussion inside the working group, because this is something that I think that if we don't handle it here, it will be pop up later on in the process. So it's better that the working group think about it and provide, I would say, an approach of how to resolve this.
Yeah.
And also to clarify which layer we assume that these identifiers will be provided. Is it purely IP or at the application? If it is at the application, do we suppose that there is, I would say, some pre-negotiation to install the information in the classifier and all of these details? I think this is for me the core piece of all of this. The functional entities are really well defined, but I'm afraid that we'll need to go a little bit deeper into the description.
Perfect, thank you. So may I ask you for a favor? Like, do you mind to send an email to the list? Then we can follow up to address the comments.
I think that we have already the comment on the, I would say, on the GitHub. Now we have to think about how to resolve this.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I may need more like feedback from other participants.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much. And the third one was hide by the figure. The security. Okay, the security part. Yeah. So if you have any comments on the security part, go ahead to share your comments on the list. Thank you. So yeah, let's work on it together to fix all the issues. Yep.
Yeah.
So next,
I see that Joel is on the queue. If you
Thank you. On the topic that was just being raised by Med, I think we need to be careful to disentangle things. At least one of the common cases was, you know what service you're connecting to from the IP address. It may have started with an Anycast address or something similar. And encrypting the traffic the fact that the application may be encrypted doesn't change that. And much of the classification even of flows, which is the other thing, you need flow stickiness, but that would normally use address and port numbers. And at least if it's HTTPS or QUIC, those are stable, even if in QUIC's case it's a little bit interesting and they can actually move out from under you. We need to recognize that the QUIC stickiness may be harder, but it's not that encrypting the traffic makes this all impossible. There are certainly ways to encrypt the traffic such that you can't do it. In that case, the CAT service is not delivered to that traffic. So I think we need to carefully disentangle the pieces there.
Okay. Thank you. Next. Oh yeah, sorry. So the second part is about the next step of the document. We may need your feedback for sure. Like, how about let's address the issues together on the list, right? And if you have any comments, do please share them to the list, because we do really need some feedbacks, and we might need some reviewers as well. Yep. So after a round of deep review, I believe that the document has been, mature enough, and which is ready for working group LASCO. Yeah. So that's the total plan of the document, because we need to meet the milestone in July or November. November this year, to send the document to IESG for publication. Yep. So let's work on it together. Thank you. Yeah, discussion. Yeah, we still have some specific question here. Like, first one is, do we need to add some specific text in section 4.1, which is about provisioning of CAT component? So if you feel like it, go to the mic or share something to the list. If you don't, we might want to remove this subsection. Yeah. Do you want to comment? Anyone comments?
I will comment on I would say on the provisioning part, because this is one of the issues I think I have already provided also in the GitHub and so on. This one links to the previous comment I made, is that depending on the assumptions that we are making on the various, I would say, information that can be pre-populated in the various CATS elements, the service may or may not be delivered. So if there are assumptions, or if we know that we will need some pieces of information there for example, the ingress routers, the classifiers, we need to call those and to identify them, because otherwise you will have just boxes
but boxes may not be that, I would say, doing the job that we are supposed to be providing. So this again, linked to the previous comment, we need to go a little bit more concrete. We don't need to be comprehensive and so on, but just provide the minimum information that we need.
Okay. So let's try to add some text. And yeah, the second one is about the security part. I still remember that some participants, they have some concern of the, the security part, but I think we might adjust some. So if you still have some concern of the security part, read the document and share your comments on the list. Yep, thank you so much.
So two things. The first, which comes back to this provisioning of components, I think we are missing some discussion of manageability. Okay, the provisioning is a piece of that.
Okay.
It might be an idea, you don't have to follow it in detail, but go and look at PCE working group has got a manageability considerations document.
Okay.
Look at that to get some ideas of what you might need to talk about.
Okay.
And the second one is for the working group. Would somebody like to volunteer to be document shepherd? Please talk to the chairs offline, or if you're really brave, stand up now and say it.
Okay, I will learn from Doof, another expert in PCE. Yeah. So any comments further?
Okay, one point is that we do have some individual drafts about the security, so I encourage the authors to contribute to the framework document. Yeah.
Thank you. Aram Welling from Oxford Information Labs. So I'm dealing with the same topic on the ITUT side, by the way. There's contributions from China related to that. So here I'm in IETF for the first time, seeing this, wondering how this is going to proceed. So excuse me, but I guess everyone's new at some point. So I'm at that stage now. So help me understand. So I'm hearing some significant topics that need to be worked on, but I'm hearing also deadlines. So please help me understand what happens if core topics like classification of encryption of something that's encrypted, how do you bypass that? I heard somebody say, well, let's not, there's other methods, but no, I mean, if you're going to have two different, scenarios running across the same network, then one can use CATs and the other one can't. That's going to have its own challenges. So I'm just trying to understand when you're at what I would call very, very significant core issues, what happens if those are not resolved? Can I please understand that? Thank you.
So imagine for a moment that we're part of the software industry, and we have a deadline to deliver our code, and it's not ready. We don't deliver. Okay. So the milestones in the charter are aspirational, and our AD may come and kick the chairs if we don't meet them, but we don't deliver until we're done.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. And I think what I just heard from Chong in his presentation was working towards being ready. But as Julien has just pointed out in the chat, there are still issues open in the tracker in the GitHub, and there's no point in even saying working group last call until all the known issues have been resolved and the document updated as necessary, and then we do it.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, welcome.
Thank you.
Yep. Any Anyone else? If no, I save 10 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we go to the next. Welcome, stop it. Welcome to stop it. There. So next is use case and requirements.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ke. I'm from China Mobile. To representing co-authors, I will present CAS use cases and requirements for the recent updates. So here is a brief outline of the presentation. First, I will show some recent updates since the interim meeting, and then Carlos and Duran will present some from two new individual documents on their use cases and to see if there are some new requirements to be merged in the existing working group document. Then we will go back to see the next steps of this document. And then, so here are some of the updates since the interim meeting on January 15th. So there are two major updates from version 4 to number 5. We have addressed a comment from Cheng from updating some requirements, and then we have provide some complementary security considerations. And then from version number 5 to number 6, we have revised use cases and contributed from Dirk and Jordi and Paul. And then we have added correlation between use cases and the requirements for better mapping. And we have addressed, try to address comments from Joe, Julie, and Dirk, which the problem has been raised for multiple times. So and then the updates is the progress of the 4 individual documents, which were primarily focused on the interim meeting to see if there are some new requirements for existing working group document, and then to see if they can be merged. The first one is from Paul. Its use case is in ITS, Intelligent Transport System. And the result is part of its document has been integrated into the working group document in section 4.2, which are similar case. And then he has contributed to this section. And then from Fu Tao, and its use case is on industrial internet requirement, but the recent update in the document seems not raising new CAS requirements. So we will see some if there is some new progress for next step. And then for the document from Luis for Oran case, CAS Mid-Hall, he said that authors of this document consider to go separately for architectural aspects. That is maybe to see that if CAS solution can be applicable to the Oran case, so he wants to go separately for this document. And then the draft from Jin Wang on the CAS use cases and consideration on green. Since that the energy aspects and the cost matrix are defined in green working group only for network domain. So here his document mentioned about like energy and cost matrix in compute domain. So part of this, the consideration on this matrix has been integrated into the working group document, especially in section 4.2 and 4.5. So next. So here is outline of the updates on use cases. In the recent version, that is number 6, we have deleted some redundant description in section 4.1, the compute aware AR and VR. And then we have merged the revision from Paul on section 4.2 and then CAS intelligent transportation. And then we have added some consideration on cost and energy matrix to the SD1 case from Dirk. And then we have split section 4.5 into 2 subsections like distributed AI inference and distributed AI training, because we see they are 2 separate. They have 2 different. They have different requirements on, especially on matrix for inference. that we especially if the AI inference instance are deployed in edge side, we put more emphasis on like resources like compute resource and delay and cost matrix. But for AI training, we focus more on storage and cost matrix. So we split them into two sub cases. And then we have some new requirements that updated. First is on instance selection. We have to be more easy to be for the vendors to implement CATs. We have deleted some vague description on this part. First one is requirement number 2, because it said that we gather from the feedback from the audience that the quickly selecting the service instance is vague, so we have deleted this requirement. And then the following is requirement 3, should provide a time limitation. The should is not a must choice, and then it's not so for the vendors it's not a must choice, so we have also delete this requirement. And then for requirement 5, must provide a mechanism for solving the service contention problem for when multiple service instances are available to provide computing and services. We think the dynamic any-cost mechanism can solve the problem without any additional mechanisms to be defined here. So also delete this requirement. And then we have reorganized matrix related requirements. It means in the current version, section 5.2 on matrix definition and representation, we have merged the section 5.2 support agreement on matrix representation and part of requirements of section 5.4 support alternative definition and use of matrix in the previous version. And then the major update is we have deleted one requirement, requirement 7 must include network matrix, because since that the network matrix here, we refer it to be matrix from network domain, which has been already defined in previous RFCs, like RFC 8911 and 8912 for many network-related performance matrix and their registries. So in this document, we want to link this our matrix-related requirements to the CAS matrix definition document, only focus on matrix defined in compute domain. And then we have replaced requirement 12 in the previous version that we will define a resource model to represent the compute CAS matrix. So the model will describe how matrices are abstracted from all of the raw matrix from the compute domain. And then we have provide some supplementary requirement for this resource model. The first one is the resource model must be implementable in an interoperable manner to focus on interoperability. And next is, And next is the resource model must be scalable. That means the agent to implement this resource model will be, when executed, it should be at the, there is a required timescale and also affordable cost. And then the resource model must be useful. What is useful? It means that when you executing the resource model for the traffic engineering of CATs, and it must be useful to make node and path selection. And so R5 to R7 is complementary to R4 to defining this resource model. And then we have replaced R14 in the previous version by R8. It's just the same definition on like there must set up matrix information that can be understood by all the CAS components. If it's not, it will the CAS components will ignore them. And then a new requirement is that also like this matrix must be simple. The simple means that it won't incur like cause routing loops or route oscillation by using this matrix for the traffic steering. So the section 5.2 about the definition about CAS matrix. Then section 5.3 is about how we use this CAS matrix. It's also a reorganized one. It's merged by previous section 5.3 on support moderate matrix distribution and part of the requirements from section 5.4 support alternative definition and use of matrix. We reorganize this section. And then the new requirement is that we must declare the entity that collect matrix. That means to be, we need to give some guidance for the vendor or service providers on how to, to implement this CAS matrix collection. You need to know which component collect matrix. So here we have provided new requirement on this. And then we have deleted requirement on, on rate control of the matrix distribution, because we see rate control is not in the scope of this CAS matrix usage. Is more on more like a method, or like a control method or management method that outside of CAS scope. And then we have deleted another should requirement, because this requirement R13, because this requirement is not helpful for implementing this CAS for use of the CAS matrix. And R14 is a new matrix that we must be clear of the update frequency of CAS matrix and its corresponding distribution method. So this requirement is for like to define the time duration or the period you pass CAS matrix to CAS components, especially for the decision maker, and determining a timeout when they will use the new CAS matrix to steer the traffic. And then we provide the last requirement is on like we should provide mechanism to assess the selection accuracy and if to check the assurance of this the selection result if it's correct. And then we have provide some modifications on requirements on instance affinity. The first one, the first requirements, we have change the description. Instance affinity must be maintained when the transaction is stateful. And then R17 is that we have put the requirement, put this requirement in a more concise description. The instance affinity must be maintained for service requests or transactions that belong to the same flow. And then R18, we must avoid keeping the runtime granularity. And we gave an example that it's focused on per flow states to a specific application. And also that for better mapping between the use cases and the requirements, we have added a new section 5.6, correlation between use case and requirements. Please check the figure in the document because it's too long to copy here. We have used to link the every to 20 to link every requirement with 5 use cases. So we see that all of the 5 use cases need requirements from R1 to R8 and R21. For R19, it's only for section 4.1 and 4.2. And for requirement 20, it's only for section 4.2. So yeah, here is any questions on the updates of the existing document. If not, we will go to the presentation from 2 other individual documents. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I've got two questions really. The first is, I note that in your rationalization, you've deleted a number of requirements.
Yes.
Which is great. Except I really want to ask all the people that derived the use cases and brought them in to check very, very carefully that something they think is a requirement has not accidentally got deleted. Just do that piece of due diligence, not you, the other authors. Right. And then I found figure 6 really helpful. That's the table of mapping the requirements to the individual use cases.
Thanks.
And what's instructive is that that's an almost complete grid. Okay, nearly every requirement appears from all the use cases,
Yes.
except for 19 and 20.
Sure. Yeah.
And that made me just go, can we do an extra loop round this and check, are 19 and 20 really CATS requirements, or are they supplementary requirements?
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So if
Just
we
there's one comment from one question from Julien to clarify
Yeah.
requirement 14, if I'm mistaken. If you can just display it before.
Yes. Julie has comments. Don't understand the requirement 14.
14, right? I really mean that we must be clear of the update frequency, right? Yeah. This I think this requirement is to set, for example, if we think about to link the requirement with the solution, that when you update the CAS matrix, for example, every 15 seconds, and then pass the matrix to a decision maker, if we don't set up this update frequency or timeout limitation, we will not know that when to select the path or when to select the instance. This is the reason behind why we define this requirement. I'm not sure if I can. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're going to need to do some wordsmithing, just some editing of these words for R14, because I think there will be some confusion about what the word clear means.
Okay.
So we will cycle around that, and I'll
Okay.
try and give you some suggestions.
Okay, maybe after the presentation. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So.
Okay, I'm Carlos Bernardos. Sorry about that. And I'm presenting this on behalf of my co-author as well, Aram Murat. And this is a proposal for a new use case to be potentially considered in CATS. It's an ISAC use case. ISAC stands for Integrated Sensing and Communications, and it's something that is very much being paid attention nowadays in standardization, but also in research, that enables us to reuse the infrastructure that is used for communication also to do environmental sensing, meaning that we can simultaneously with communication or not, but using the same infrastructure, be able to sense if there are objects and what those objects may look like, and even potentially something happen. For people, for example, sense if they are smiling or not, things like that, but also sense traffic object in a road or things like this. Okay, so the thing is that in this, there may be sensing tasks that involve multiple nodes to be collecting raw sensing data from different type of, okay, perfect. And then that data or those data fragments may need to be processed on a different entity or resource that has the capabilities, the compute capabilities to do that. So this is where I believe that CATS may be relevant. And actually, there is also a new, this use case is aligned with a new work item in the ETSI ISAC ISG, Industry Specification Group, that has just been recently approved, that is called integration of computing with ISAC. So they are actually looking, this ETSI ISG is looking into ISAC, architecture, use cases, and potentially solutions. And they already identified the need to integrate that with computing, which I think is very much CATS type of thing. So this is where that links with the relation to CATS. In this type of distributed sensing use cases, the sensing data collected by multiple entities need to be efficiently routed to a computing node that is capable of processing that raw sensing data in a way that produces a useful sensing outcome or sensing result. The choice of the computational or computing node or instance depends on different factors, computational load, network congestion, capabilities of the nodes, latency constraints, and the CATS mechanisms could be used to optimize that selection and the joint traffic steering of that sensing data to the computing entity. It's also very often that the sensing data may be time sensitive because the application of the ISAC could be, for example, to real-time management of a system or controlling an AGV in an industrial factory, these type of things. And then again, CATS could ensure that these low latency paths are achieved while ensuring that the computational requirements for the sensing is also achieved. Oh, sorry. So I put some requirements in the draft. I think, well, I will not go into the details, especially because, as Adrian mentioned, there are things that may be capabilities, requirements. We will need to do a bit more of fine-tuning this if the working group consider this as a useful thing to consider into the use cases. But as you can see, there are things that are related to CATS in terms of the capability to do traffic streaming and resource allocation, ensuring that the sensing data is directed to the nodes that is are more suitable for doing the computation of the sensing data, and these type of things. But again, for the sake of time, I will not go into those. Interested people can check the draft. And the final discussion is we believe that this use case has, and the requirements, the type of requirements that it may imply has not been considered or covered in other use cases that are in the document, in the working group document right now. So our proposal will be to request the working group to consider this to be included, this use case, and potentially taking some text from our draft or other texts. But the point is to consider the ISAC use case as one of the use cases covered by CATS. And a last but related kind of request, and considering also that my co-author is the chair of the ISAC ISG at ETSI, we believe that given this new work item on computing, probably some kind of collaboration between ISAC ISG and the CATS IETF working group may be desirable for progressing this in both working groups. Thanks.
So back to the requirements table that I'd like so much in the draft. There are two questions really. One is, do you see from your use case any new requirements?
I think there are. Probably they are not well spelled out here, because here we are talking about generic requirements from ISAC, not considering what has been already mentioned, but I think there are new. So I can take another look at the actual requirements and try to send to the mailing list like this and these are specific new ones that are not already covered, that are specific from ISAC.
Right. I think that's going to be a key thing, because the whole point of having the use cases in that document, it's not because we want to invent lots of new use cases. It's because we want to actually make sure we've captured the requirements.
I fully agree on that. Although I also think that documenting use cases that are relevant for CATS, even if all the associated requirements are already covered by other use cases, that may be also useful. So that is not contradictory, especially because of this new work item of ETSI that may rely on us as providing solutions that they can use.
Okay. Yeah, so the cooperation here, I think, would be, it is that the generation of those requirements to make sure that our solution does meet their demands. So yeah, getting that input and then getting this document, that the framework, the requirements and use cases document reviewed.
Yeah.
And getting feedback, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. Thanks.
So Julian, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Julien Maisonneuve from Nokia. So I was looking at the requirement page, and I thought that the third one, I would like an explanation of why you think this is related to CATS, because in my view, this concerns the data that you are carrying, but maybe not the CATS mechanisms themselves.
Which one? Which requirement?
The third one about data synchronization.
Latency sensitivity or the data synchronization? Which one?
Synchronization.
Synchronization. Well, in the case that in this ISAC use case, we may need multiple sources of data that has to be processed in a centralized resource, and because we have latency, is time sensitive, the final application, the final user of the outcome of that processing, and the devices are distributed, we need to synchronize somehow that the data arrives to the computing node in a synchronized way to be able to meet the time constraints to provide the result in time. So that's why we believe data synchronization is required, and that we believe that CATs may need to have this type of data synchronization when we consider multiple sources sending data to
Are you trying to ensure global ordering of messages, or I'm very confused by that.
More than order, I think that the data arrives within a given time window. It can be not in order, and the reordering can be done in the final integration or fusion of the sensing data, but it has to be arriving at a given time to be able to process that before the outcome will not be useful anymore for the final application of the sensor.
It's a time to live, essentially.
Sorry?
It's something like a time to live
Yeah.
for the data, but
Well,
that's
time to
something
live,
that you
and
could.
not only time to live, but ensuring that if I have to make a computation, taking this piece of data and this piece of data, and I have to provide the outcome in given amount of time, I need to have the guarantee that those two pieces of data will arrive before my time to provide the result gets there. So that's the time of synchronization that we need.
But isn't there a possibility that you could do it at the application level by including timestamps, for example?
Yeah, could be another option, yes.
Okay, thank you. I think you need to rephrase it a bit because it's difficult to understand what you mean from this text. Thank you.
Dirk, Genji, sorry, the queue got closed before you got there. Dirk.
Hi, Dirk Rossen, Huawei. Yeah, I'm equally confused about the third one. And let me ask you the question that way. What you're describing does sound like something the application does to make sure that data arrives, in a synchronized manner. Can you express the data synchronization problem so that it becomes apparent that traffic steering is the solution? Because that's what I'm not getting. And if traffic steering is not the solution, then it isn't a CATS requirement.
No, I think traffic steering is the solution because you have, in the classical CATS use cases that I kind of remember, typically you have an application running on a node, and that application is consuming something that is processed on a different node, on a instance on the infrastructure, and then you have the traffic steering and the selection of where to put that. That is basically what CATS is doing. Here in this case, we have potentially multiple endpoints sending data to one centralized point or multiple centralized points. And we need to select where to do this based on the requirements from the processing of that data and the latency of that data. But we also need to be guaranteeing some kind of synchronization so the data arrive more or less, or meeting at least the synchronization requirements for the data to be fused in a way that the outcome arrives to the final consumer in time for being actually usable. That's where I see that data synchronization requirement as something that is relevant for CATS, because it's not only deciding where to put something, meeting or considering the latency and doing the traffic steering to meet that and the computational requirements of the node, but also considering that there are multiple sources of traffic sending data at the same time. So it's something different from what we have been doing in CATS, as far as I understand CATS so far.
So I can see that with the latency sensitivity. You want to pick a point for processing that gives you the smallest jitter of the overall processing of all the streams. And CATS can help you with data synchronization. I get that, but the current CATS requirements allow you to already do that because you essentially, from all the latency information you have, you're picking the best point that's being located. I still contest, though, that you will ensure data synchronicity with that, because all you're doing is you're making sure that you pick a point where you have the least jitter in latency, but you may still arrive totally out of sync. They're not helping you. So going back to Julian,
you will need application, probably, I guess, application layer somehow synchronize the data as it arrives.
Yeah, I find that, or I will agree that maybe the term synchronization is not the best, but what I mean is what I try to explain. The term synchronization may not be right, but we have to ensure, and that to me is a requirement for CATs, that when we have multiple distributed sources of information sending something, that those pieces arrive with the given or the required jitter for the actual sensing to be processed.
So then I would really suggest to maybe remove the word synchronization, because if that's what the problem you want to solve, you're not getting it solved, and focus on what you just said to pick an optimal point of ingestion of the data. Because what you're talking about, you want to pick the best ingestion point for the data based on, in your case, probably a latency one. And I would think, from my head, the top of my head, that that's not captured at the moment in the selection of the various metrics. So you may just, extend one of the selection-related requirements to take input sources from several endpoint metrics just from one, right? That I can see, but don't mention the word data synchronization, because you're not achieving synchronization. I think that's the point of contention.
I agree, and thanks for the comments for both of you.
The thing is, this may actually be a use case for a lot of other, you could maybe even think about other use cases where you have that best ingestion point type of problem. And ISAC is just one of them. Really. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, just to continue. I think that I'll just second what Julian and Dirk said. So probably the synchronization is not the most accurate term, because what you described as a use case very similar to, for example, for in situ OEM direct expert correlation of data produced by individual nodes traversed down the path. So there are different ways, as Julian suggested, to solve that on application layer. One of them being timestamps that requires clock synchronization in your system, which might be not that stringent, depending on. Another thing is that if they're evaluating of this information get collected from the domain is mission critical, then yes, again, what Julian suggested, you have time to live for your data. So, which is similar, for example, to deterministic networking, that you have bound latency when for industrial automation, for example, if the packet is late, you can drop it in the midway, don't have to deliver because it's already late. Okay, so you have some time budget. So again, doesn't seem to be unique to ISAC, and probably not really very specific as a requirement for CATs.
Well, on that, I think the discussion that we just had with Dirk kind of highlighted something that has not been captured in CATs as a requirement, that if you have multiple sources of information and you need to select which point is going to be digesting and processing that traffic, considering that the data has to get there with a given time window or jitter, and considering also the metrics of computing capabilities and this type of things, that's something that has not been considered yet as a requirement. And ISAC is one of the use cases that requires that, but as also Dirk mentioned, there could be others that requires that.
Well, again, in my opinion, this is becomes requirement if it's mission critical. If if good enough is good enough, then it's not a requirement.
In ISAC, there are applications or consumers of the data that are mission critical. If you are doing control and detection of objects of AGVs or things like that, the time required for that is very low. So it's kind of time critical application. And you can use ISAC to detect obstacles in a vehicle on a road, that type of things. So it's time critical. There are scenarios that are time critical.
If it's time critical, then probably you need some other methods to do latency guarantees. Because in the best effort, you would not have latency guarantees. So basically, no matter what you use with cats, if you cannot guarantee the latency, then
Yeah, but cat is a piece of what you may need there, not the only one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, next. So if possible, please be quick. We are out of time.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Vinh Ngọc, and this document is discuss possible new cache requirement when service segmentation is applied to some existing cache use case in the use case ID. So service segmentation is a service deployment option which already been we also discussed in another individual documents, and it's some key definition about it that a service is split into multiple subtasks. We can run in different computing size, and a service request is served by a combination of these subtasks instead of one single instance. And then this subtask can run in parallel or in sequential chains. And in the document, we specify that there are existing example where service segmentation is applied in two existing use case in the use case ID already. The first one is AR/VR, and the example is when an AR hologram service is deployed at a subtask sequence or subtask chains. And another example is a distributed AI training where a feather learning training service is deployed at the hierarchical or parallel subtask. So this document is analyze the example and see the difference that service segmentation bring to the CAS system when we design this use case. And based on that, we propose additional CAS requirements. So this is a quick look at the example. So here we have the AR hologram service. And this service is deployed at the chain of a decode and render subtask. And we have a decode and render subtask have multiple instances of them in different service sites. And they have a different performance because they are associated computing and network resource. And because of that, combination of different subtask instances we will have a different subtask path. And the difference with the cache here, for this normal cache, is that instead of selecting a single service instance over another one, we select an optimal subtask combination over another combinations. The same go with the further learning hierarchical case. Here we have different global aggregators. It's the instance that serve the FL training service request, and GA it can be split into multiple worker aggregators, and each worker aggregator will have some local training device to support that. So different number of local training device affect performance of worker, and different number of worker affect the performance of GA. So in the same way, the CAD needs to select an optimal subtask combination. In this case, an optimal combination of aggregator and device, other than selecting only a single global aggregator one. So from that difference is the requirement. Requirement number one is that the CAD system need to differentiate different combinations of subtasks. And number two, once that optimal combination is determined, then the CAD system need to provide a mechanism in some kind of way to route the request through that optimal combination which is determined by the CAD system. And the third one, if there is no full service available inside the network, then the CAD system need to provide a mechanism that can map the original switch request to the combination of the subtasks. With the further learning example, it's the same way. Number one, differentiate between combination, and number two is mechanisms for that the CAS facilitator, for example, notify the FL orchestrator to use optimal combination determined by the CAS. So from that, these are some CAP requirements in the text that we provide. We support that we suggest that the requirement can be added to the system number one, the current use case ID, and after the R2. Mention this as the optional requirement need to be required if service segmentation is used in the current CAD use case. That's for my part.
Any comments or questions?
I need to think about this more, and I think we probably need a bigger time slot for everybody to get their heads around this this use case. Chung.
Yeah, I agree with, I agree with agent. So I would suggest you to send an email to the list that then all the people can read and discuss with you. And one more comment is that I do really happy to see the use case of about AI, because that is the hot topic right now. So I will try to push cats into the AI direction as I can. Yeah, so such as AI inference network, something like that, instead of only AI training, right?
Yeah.
So you may pay attention to that part as well. Yeah, thank you.
So just exchanging comment with Med, we think there's actually more information in your slides than there is in the draft at the moment. So that's okay, but could you please revise the draft, update it, get some more information in there so that we can read it and try to understand?
Sure, I will do.
Thank you. Thank you. We move to next.
Excuse me, I think there are two more slides in the original one about the next step and the open question. Sorry. I will go very quickly. So there are only two slides about one is on the open questions is raised by Julian after the interim meeting. Because currently I have summarized all of the relevant use cases, including the existing 5 use cases in the document. So very important question is, should we prioritize CAS use cases? And for example, in addition to the 5 use cases, including to the main body of the document, we have 2 more use cases, CDN and cloud rendering in the appendix. Even though they will be deleted in the final version, but we see them that they have similar requirements for the existing 5 use cases. Then we have like a ORAN case and 3GPP edge case. But the authors that consider to go separately for architectural aspects to see more applicability of the CATs. And we have included some energy and cost considerations of the green matrix draft and merged into the existing document. And then we will see some progress about the industrial internet case, the ASA case presented by Colors, and the service segmentation case presented by Duran, and to see if there are some new requirements. So, and then finally, we want to seek advice from the audience of the CAS working group to see if we need to prioritize all of the CAS use cases. And we have some principles brought by Chess to see if they are already covered by the working group draft especially for the requirements. And then if please link your use case and the requirement draft with the framework draft to see if your use case can be addressed by the framework. So yes, this open question, if you have some feedback, please send out email. And for the next steps is that we will polish the existing document and then address comments from Paul, from Julian over instance affinity related requirements, and then emerge other use cases and requirements if they're ready. And then, so after all of the comments will be addressed, we will, that the authors request for publication of this document as an informational RFC. And currently, this document is tagged as information only. So for 3 main reasons, we want to change the the tag of this document. One is that we think that the document is becoming mature, on that the use cases are reasonable and the requirements are implementable because we have already provided some POC results in the appendix. And then the second reason is that we see that the topic popularity about cats, especially also computing related issues in out of routing area, for example, like new tech or other, also other areas. This document can be helpful for understanding the computing related problems and the scope. And then we see the value of the CAT solution for other SDOs like 3GPP, ETSI, ORAN, and ATUT. They all have relevant work on CAT related topics. There may be potential applicability of CAS for other SDOs. So the document can serve as a good reference for them. So if it's agreed, authors plan to target the working group last go date on July this year. That means in Madrid, next IETF meeting. So want to solicit for comments. Thank you.
All right, I'm just doing a poll here to ask those of you in the meeting, would you like to see the use cases and requirements published as an RFC? I should, while you're doing that, the alternatives are keep it alive as a draft, put it on a wiki, let it fade away because now we've documented it, we can move on. Just give you a few more seconds on that. But in terms of people in the room, that's fairly convincing. All right, thank you. Do you want to? Jim, Med is determined to put you on the spot. Where do you stand on informational use case and requirements RFCs?
Okay, so I've got a couple of things. So let me address that first. I have, from my perspective, I have no issue with publication of informational documents as long as I can see a strong consensus coming from the working group. So I'm not going to override and say no, I'm not going to publish that. So that will be my take on it. The second thing I wanted to mention was, can you go back to the previous slide? The one thing I'm a little concerned about is that prioritizing the use cases kind of feels to me like it has the potential of boiling the ocean. And really what we're looking at is a prioritization of the requirements as opposed to the use cases. And I think what I would like to do, if it were up to me, would be kind of prioritize those requirements and have a minimal set of requirements that the architecture that you finally build will support. And then there still may be requirements that come from use cases that maybe don't have requirements that span multiple use cases that you would see as perhaps an enhancement to the architecture later on down the line. Because otherwise, what I'm seeing is like there literally is a raft, a boatload of use cases growing and growing and growing. And when you get to the point where you cut it off and say, no, look, we've got enough requirements here, let's build something, and then we can add on top in the future. So just bear in mind the requirements in terms of prioritization as well as the use cases.
Yeah, just on the last point you mentioned, Jim, actually the use cases that are mentioned in this slide are not reflected as they are in the draft. In the draft, there are really few ones because we wanted them to be really, I would say, the ones that be representative and the ones that are generating specific requirements that are important to drive the work. So I think that's what you have mentioned are really make a lot of sense. And I think that the authors have already this guidance that is from the chairs. Yeah. And also good that you mentioned that if there's a consensus to publish that to proceed as informational. So I think that we have an indication that the working group want this to be published. So I think that's, yeah, I won't be surprised if you receive this document later
Yeah,
on
not
this
at all.
year. So,
No,
yeah.
I certainly wouldn't stand in the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
And from a process point of view, we would last call this even if we didn't go for publication,
Exactly, yeah.
because we want to know that we have consensus in the working group on the requirements. So it's almost like the publication is a little, it's a cherry on top. We've got to pursue this all the way through last call.
Sure, yeah.
Julien, did you?
Yes, Julien, I just wanted to clarify that the reason why I asked to prioritize the requirements was because at some point we had a flurry of different requirements. We had, I think, up to 15 of them. And I wanted to understand which ones were more important than others and which one we needed to focus on. And I think that we have started this work, so I'm satisfied from that standpoint. And I don't think that going forward, if we get to a smaller list of a use case, that it's appropriate for publication. But
cool, thank you.
I think it's a process that needed to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What is after the she?
Thank you, Aram Welling again. So, okay, so I'm trying to understand this concept of publishing requirements when there isn't there a concept of proof of concept before requirements are published? Isn't there, we publish requirements, but how do we know that we have a good set? How do we know we have a good set? You know, there's usually in the real world, you come up with requirements, say for software development, and then or any kind of implementation, and you realize that there's additional requirements.
It's funny, you keep bringing me back to how does the software industry work? You know, when you have a software development project, you sit down and you try to write a list of all the requirements. Have you captured them all? Maybe.
I would say 99% of the time, no. Unless you're some
but
really lucky
that
person.
That doesn't stop you kind of freezing that list of requirements in
exactly.
order that you can develop.
Right, but see, when I'm done with the software development project, that's when I would publish to say, okay, I have really good confidence because there was a proof of concept done on these.
Okay, so maybe the thing here is publishing is not the end of the development cycle for us.
Okay.
Right, we might publish an RFC and come back a year later and replace it. Okay. So there is a level of confidence. So we do our due diligence, we do our last call, we all review it. Level of confidence that we may well have it right. We go on and work on the solutions, and if we discover we got it wrong, we revisit.
Okay, so you said it when you do the solutions. Okay, so say it's hanging out there, right? A year's passed. When is there an expectation that there will be further verification, validation of what's been published? Or is it sometimes just in a black hole and can exist forever and nobody ever really tried it out to see if we got it right?
A lot of our documents fall into black holes, but our protocol work is in a constant state of revision, revival, improvement.
Exactly. This is a whole new concept.
So
right?
so we're sort of checkpointing as we go along.
Okay. So the expectation is that, I guess to me, it seems like, are we going to publish this? It just seems like there's, I mean, I heard that major core issues about security, okay?
Yeah.
How do you publish?
Yeah, there are still issues that we will be working on, not on this document, on the CATS framework. This one will be, I would say, fit in the framework, and then later on the solution space. We are not there yet. So all your questions are reasonable or valid one, but they are not at the, I would say, right moment. So yeah, just by the way, we are running out of time right now,
sorry,
and we have no problem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome. No problem.
Yep, I will try to squeeze the time and show the recent updates on CAT's metric definition. So after the interim meeting, oops. Yep, we focused on addressing the comments from Ajin and Joel, and we have polished the abstract and introduction, and then we have updated the catch matrix definition, and then some updates on the representation of the catch matrix. We have clearly defined the catch matrix fields, modified examples of 3 matrix levels and basic encoding format of the example matrix. And then we have added a new section talking about the implementation guidance on using catch matrix. This is to, propose some options for service providers or vendors on how to use this catch matrix. So for the scope of the catch matrix, we have a sentence list in the document that this document defines a set of matrix from the computing domain used for CATs. Here, that computing domain is a term analogous to the network domain. It means that the CAT matrix not only covers computing matrix, but also other matrix like communication matrix and composed matrix, also generated from or operated by the computing domain. And the set here means not all matrix will be covered. In particular, we only focus on the matrix that are used for traffic steering. So for the definition of the CAT matrix level, there are 3 levels. For the very bottom level, level 0, we clarify its position that level 0 matrix, the all raw matrix, they serve as a fundamental data and do not require classification. And then we reorganize the level 1 matrix into 3 classes. The computing matrix, it means a normalized value derived from a computing-related level 0 matrix, such as CPU utilization, GPU flops, and other matrix. And we also here, for the issue about storage matrix, we have agreed to add storage matrix inside this class, since storage matrix itself have different levels. Some can be seen as part of the compute components, such as memory or cache. Then the second class, we replace the class networking to be communication, because we see that the communication is more at the same level of computing. And the meaning of it is a normalized value derived from all level 0 communication related matrix. And then we have replaced delay to be a new class called composed matrix. Composed matrix means a normalized value derived from an aggregation function gathering compute as well as a communication matrix. For example, delay is just can be used by an aggregation function that is the sum of all delays along the path. So delay, we see that it's not at the same level of computing or communication, so we use composed matrix to include delay. And there are some other like example like bandwidth, like etc. Yeah. So we have changed the figure 1. Here we have a link between level 0 matrix directly to level 2 matrix. It means that the level 2, the fully normalized matrix, can be either normalized by level 1 matrix only or level 0 matrix only, or both level 1 and level 0 matrix. And then for the section of CAT matrix representation, here is an outline of all the fields we define. We include 9 types of fields currently in the draft, like matrix type, format, standard, format, length, unit, source, statistics, and level and value. So here we have like 6 mandatory fields and 3 optional fields. For format standard, it's optional because not all format standardized like IEEE defined format or ASCII2. And then source, it's optional because it's provides some additional supplementary information on the source of the document. We refer to RFC 9439. They define some field like nominal, estimation, normalization, And then we have add like directly measured field and aggregation. And then statistics field is also optional. It provides some additional details when there are some pre-computation performed on the matrix, including here we define 4 subtypes, like max means the maximum value, and main, and the mean value is the average value of the matrix, and the current value stands for that you collect the current value of the matrix. So these are the overall fields we have included for the representation of the CAS matrix. Here is an example for level 1 and level 0 and level 1. Since the representation of level 0 matrix is very similar to level 1, especially the difference lies in the matrix type and level, where we didn't include the example here. So for level 0, we have shown the example also for the encoding of each field, and then level 1. If you have some comment and to see if, for example, the bit is not defined very precisely, you can give us some feedback. And then a very important thing is that to reflect for the comment from Joe and also from Chair is that we need, for this document, we need to give some implementation guidance for vendors and provide some options for them to show how to use CAS matrix. So the key question here is that how to define the normalization function and also aggregation functions, and to choose which component to put them. So in this way, we can be better aligned with CAS framework. So we authors and provided some options. The first option that we put all the functions in CAS service contact instance. The pros here is that you don't need to worry about resource and performance, but the bad effect is the CAS service contact instance only have local knowledge. The knowledge can be not enough to be for the decision maker, for example, in the ingress, know all the knowledge. So at the ingress, if you want it to be have the better traffic steering decision, it to have a global knowledge. So put all the function here may be not efficient or enough. So the second option is that we choose CAS service matrix agent, CSMA, to be the aggregator. We can here the pros is that it can synthesize the CAS matrix as well as matrix from network domain, and then transfer all of the knowledge to the ingress for decision making. But the cons is that there are limited resources in CSMA depending on how it's located with CAS forwarders. And then for the third option, we can choose both option 1 and option 2, but split functions. That means that we suggest that the aggregation function to be placed at CSMA, while normalization functions, which is different. Maybe the algorithms of normalization is complex, so we put them into the service contact instance. And also we welcome more options to be provided. So next steps is that to polish and solidify CAS matrix representation and coding, and solicit for comments, so we can at least agree on one option. And then authors will set the submission to ISG for working group last call at March 2026, next year this time. But we also consider the progress of CAS framework because there will be a connection between this document. For example, this document lists in the necessity of designing a logical component, for example, the matrix aggregator, how it will be located or how it's served, and the CAS framework. So yeah, thank you. These are overall updates of the document.
Yeah, Charlie from Huawei. Can you go back to the previous slides? Yeah, this. So I think it would be valuable for us to add all options, option 1 through 3, into the document and specify how to do it in the metric document. But because this is the metric definition and documents, so don't need to specify the details, right? Just show we have like 3 options, and if you go with option 1, you need to do something like that. Option 2, you need to do something like that in the high level, maybe. Yeah, that's my personal opinion. Yep.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think I want to go even a step beyond that and say this is the metrics document, not the use of metrics document.
Sure. Yeah.
And this question, I'm sorry, it's yours. It belongs in the framework.
Okay, no problem. I'm happy to write this
I mean,
document.
the two things
Yeah.
need to kind of advance
Yeah.
together, but
Okay.
this question is a framework question.
Okay, cool. You can move this part to framework document. Yep.
Yeah, Julien Maisonneuve. So when I read the metrics draft here, the first thing that I was a little confused with is that you start straight with a classification of metrics in several levels, and you never say why. You don't say what is the necessity for having several levels. You don't. So I think this document really needs a problem statement about what the metrics problem is, so that you can justify what you put afterwards. Because at the moment, it looks like it's falling from the sky.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I think Luis has already passed the message from you to us for why there is only 3 levels of matrix, or no further like 5 levels, right? So I can share basic on the what my understanding at the very beginning, because like at the very beginning, my choice to choose only 2 levels. For example, like level 2 and the level 0, like 2 poles, like North Pole and South Pole. One is very complex with all the raw mix. One is very simple, extremely simple. But then it comes like we want a network to determine that if we can know more knowledge, and then to assess if the traffic steering is correct, then we add one more level called level 1, but it's still normalized, but it can tell the network CAS component to know more knowledge, like what level it behind, what type it contains, the information, right? But we think that if we include more levels, like level 0.5, we think that they belong to the implementation of different vendors. They can define multiple levels, but only level 0 and level 2 maybe the newly defined levels between inside this CAS metric definition draft. And yeah, indeed, we will provide
so I think the point here is that some explanation and more exposure of that is needed, either on the mailing list or in the draft. Sorry, Dirk, we're...
Yeah. We will add more discussion in the document. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there is sophisticated thinking behind this that is not in the documents. So it would be good to have a bit of clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Zongpeng. Yeah.
So we need to move.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you must be very, very quick.
Okay. This is a new draft, the proposed instead the old one, and the old one about the computer modeling and metrics, and the new one is about the default policy and the related metrics in CAS. The main motivation is that we found that in the cloud computing scenario, the task allocation and scheduling is similar to the traffic scheduling in CAS. In the cloud computing system, the main optimization objective considered are the task execution time, execution cost, and the load balancing. The first two is about the user satisfaction, and the load balancing is about the reliability and the availability of the system. In CAS, we also can consider similar metrics in the traffic steering. The proposed one are the computing delay and the service capability, and it also can be called the load balance value. Next page, please. In this page, we will introduce the default policy and the related metrics.
I don't think that we can go through all the slides because we are running out of time. So I apologize for that. If you can, just summarize one key message that you wanted to pass through, and then we can just conclude, please.
Okay. These two metric, one is the computing delay, is working for the method one or the forwarding policy, and the second one is for the method two or forwarding policy. And they all can we can see whether it can help be helpful for the working group document. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and apologies again for. Okay, thank you everyone, and sorry for for the time. And I think we do you have anything? Okay. Yes. Anyone has any comments? Because we don't have that in time. So thank you everyone. We are just close the meeting. Yeah. Thank you.